Let's demonstrate how to build a GCAD Plus site map. I've been on site and made a little mud map. It doesn't have to be terribly accurate, but I'm interested in a base map for a rear garden area. And I've scanned the base map just to show you here. If we click in here, the area I'm interested in accurately measuring is I'll start at one corner of the house here, go across there, then up. Now this site has a curving window there and I can't measure accurately that curve, so I just project up and across. So I get two sort of construction lines and I'll draw the curve in a little while. Then we come down here, 2850 across there. Then I take a couple of triangle measurements to locate the back boundary point there and there. I've drawn those lines in red so that you can see the triangles that form the intersection to give us the boundary. So how do we use GCAD Plus to create a drawing such as that? I'll leave that mud map there on the side and start over here somewhere. So first thing I would do is make sure that polar is on, because I want to draw most of these lines orthogonal to one another. So it's draw and line, and I'll put this first side of the house footprint. You start by putting this house footprint down. So I'll just arbitrarily draw a line like so. And now we head off to the right in the direction where we have that 4800 line. So just make sure that ortho's on and that the beige indicator points in the right direction. And we just type 4800 and hit enter. So in goes that line. Now we come up here, I'll pan across 1500. So we wait for our snap to occur and type 1500. And we go, you may not be able to see it, but we go further on our sort of projection line to another 1350. So rather than add them together, and you'll see why in a moment, I keep them separate. So 1350, and then we come across over here some 4360. So 4360 and hit enter. The line's gone behind the mud map, so I'll right click and select exit and finish, and I'll just move the mud map diagram there off to the left. So we've reached that point up there, that corner. We need to come from there and go down 2850. So it's draw line again. This time I'll snap to the end point of that line, come down here to 850, and then across 1750, and then down 5500, and we'll exit from there and we'll zoom extents. So there's our mud map over here, and the house footprint is now taking shape reasonably well. We'll worry about putting the boundaries in a little later. What I wanted to deal with was getting that arc in here. So there's an arc that runs from the end point of this line here across to that line there. So I don't need to be terribly accurate about it, but I need an arc to go in there, and we could use a 3-point arc. If we start a 3-point arc there, then have snap near or nearest, we can snap to, say, a point about here and then to the end point of the arc. So let's try that. And we can tweak the arc after we've put it in. So it's draw, arc. We choose a 3-point arc. It's the simplest, so we can pick the end point of that line there. The next point for the arc, it's a fairly shallow arc. It's going to be somewhere about this point, and then the final will be here, and we want it to move in that general direction. Now that looks reasonably good. I mean, obviously my mud map is not drawn to scale, so I've now got an arc in there. Now I can remove this line and remove that line there. What I will do is just pick on that arc, and now I can see its center point and its radius, and we can look at it. What I'd be inclined to do is to make the radius of that arc, say, 8 300 rather than the 19 there, because after all it is an approximate figure. So that then gives us a more rounded arc. So there's our arc sitting there. Now the next thing to do is to put in these lines that we'll remove later that will give us the boundary points there. It's now time to locate the boundaries. So there'll be a boundary line across there, one running down the side and one running down the right-hand side of this base plan. To locate the boundary, that's where you use the triangular measurements. I find the easiest way to do that is to draw a circle center radius, and I'm asked for the start point, or the center point for the circle rather, and I use the snap option and I'll locate that line, and my first circle has a radius of 7600. I've changed my drawing color to red so that you can see it a little easier. I can right click to repeat the circle. I can snap to this point here where I took my measurement, and the radius will be 8485, 8485. Now I have two circles with a radius that I've measured by taking my triangles, and I can locate one corner of the boundary by the intersection of those two circles. I'm in the habit of using the point command for that. So point, and I'll snap to the intersection of those two circles, and the point then goes in. I can exit from there. I no longer need these circles, they're just there for construction, so I can erase them, and I'll change the drawing color of that point that's selected first back to by layer, so I have a white point there and a white point there. So I can quite easily now draw a line from one to the other to get the back boundary. So let's draw a line. That is a point which is known to GCAD Plus as a node, so I can right click and say snap overrides, and I'll pick node or a point, and there I've got it, and right click again, snap override to a node, and we're done. And so the back boundary goes in. Because ortho's on, it's now just a matter of picking right click, repeat the line, and this time we could just use our standard endpoint, and provided that ortho's on, we can just draw the side boundary down like so, and repeat that by snapping to the end point of that boundary across the back, making sure that ortho stays on, and exit. And now we have an accurate, simple model to work with. We can do our landscape design in this quite small courtyard area. We have the footprint of the house in on our mud map. We know there's a window wall through here and a series of windows around through there, so we're going to be concerned with giving good views into the garden from that room there, which I think is a dining room, and a room here which I think is a sort of lounge family area. So you want very good views of the garden from this zone. We're not concerned at all over here because there are solid walls in the house. So this is the area we want to concentrate on. So we have our base plan, our accurate base plan, and any time we want, we can say tools, distance, what's the distance, say, between that window wall and the back boundary? Well, it's nearly 7.5 meters, so we've got that sort of area to play with. So that provides us with our base map. It took longer to describe, I think, than it does to actually draw, but you do have to make sure that when you're on site, you take enough measurements to be able to create this sort of drawing when you come back to base.